Wait, I have to mute this.
Oh, I guess Romina's waiting on me to do a quick intro. All right. Welcome to the No Assembly Required podcast, where we talk about absolutely nothing. And now, your host. We'll start with the woman who makes sure all of her enemies are wearing a red shirt to absolutely seal their fate, Red Romina. And now, your second host. A girl who I'm still sure hasn't watched The Wonder Years, Audrey Ember.
How did you know?
And now your final host. A man who spends his free time reassembling his bobbleheads in the proper order, Roberto Blake. Welcome to the No Assembly Required podcast every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. How's it going, guys?
That was beautiful.
Yeah. Do you care when I call you guys, or like, do you want me to use a non-gender specific word? Like
guys is non-gender.
See, I believe that, but the Twitter community does not share my beliefs.
Well, it's kind of like when people say like ladies. That's also like guys go into like a locker room and they're like, "Hey, ladies."
Yeah. I agree with you, Audrey, that I think that everything has become too complicated.
Yes.
I
Get
mean,
into the logistics, but like...
I'm longing for a simpler time. It was called 2015. 2015 seems like such a simpler time.
Oh my god, that was 5 years ago.
really? You think that was a simpler time?
It's 5 years ago and it feels like 15.
I'm gonna go like I want to go all the way back to 2007.
I don't know.
I used to take potato.
No, I don't want to go back to 2007. I was still an employee in 2007.
All right, when did you stop being an employee? What year was it?
I'd have to double check because of the way I count it, but let's go with 2013.
All right, that's still not simple enough for me.
Yeah.
I
Let's
probably
just go
still
back
believe
to
in Santa Claus
1998.
in 2007.
No, let's not go back to 1998.
1994?
No.
Oh my god, let's not, like, no.
Dude, I wasn't even there.
No.
Audrey's like, no. You're wiping
Delete
out
Audrey.
No, we can't roll the clock back. Not unless we can roll it back and I get to hand myself the almanac. You know, if I get to hand myself all of the accumulated knowledge I currently have, we can go back to 2002 because I was an 18-year-old legal adult and I can actually use all of that knowledge and use it in the stock market.
No, I agree. I mean, I definitely don't want to go back unless I have all the knowledge that I have. But that kind of defeats the purpose of going back, right?
No, it doesn't. I literally can go back in time and be a multi-billionaire? Come on.
No, I'm saying that if I don't have the information, it defeats the purpose of going back.
Yeah. There's no point.
Unless I'm going to like relive like a childhood memory or something like that.
No, but even then you would want to like be able to immerse yourself in the experience, and then you still have the ability to change things. So it's like there's no point in time travel is pointless without the ability of utilizing future knowledge. I think we all could just agree that's how time travel works.
What about you, Audrey? What are your thoughts on time travel? Were you even paying attention? We're doing a podcast here.
Engaging with our audience. I left a comment.
Wow.
But no, I think time travel is real, and there's people who are already time traveling and we don't know about it.
But
wow, that wasn't even the discussion.
I'll entertain this. So here's the thing. But caveat. Time traveling backwards in time is like not a realistic fantasy for women or people of color. And I'm not politicizing that. I'm just saying like facts. Like that's like there's no point in time before the late 20th century that I go back and things go well for me at all. I don't have the luxury of that particular fantasy. Like,
definitely going forwards into the future would be more interesting, I think.
But then if I go forward into the future, unless it's idiocracy, then I have no advantage either because everybody in the future theoretically is smarter, healthier, and has all the advancements of the medical technology. Unless it's idiocracy.
Hold on a second. Audrey, have you seen Idiocracy?
What's that? No.
Oh my god.
What? I don't even. Is that a? I'm not even
It's
gonna
a
ask.
movie. It's
Okay.
a movie where, and I forget the actor's
I
name.
think you should just watch it,
Yeah.
Audrey. I
Look,
think
I'll
Is
put
it
it
about
to you
time
like this.
travel?
I'll put it to you like this. When people are referencing what we're living through right now as idiocracy, they're talking about this movie that you haven't watched, so you don't have a frame of reference. But when you watch it, you'll realize we are living in a more absurd timeline than was written in a movie about the most absurd timeline we could possibly have of our future.
Great. But
yeah. When you hear people say that, Audrey, they're talking about the movie. They're not like using a fancy word that they picked up in the dictionary.
In idiocracy, here's the thing: we have a president that literally was a professional wrestler, or at least played one on
What?
TV, and that's actually something that's in the movie. And again, we are living in the most absurd timeline.
They predicted the future.
It did. When you watch the movie, you will
You gotta
see.
watch the movie,
Oh
Audrey.
my god!
Wait, what's it called again?
Idiocracy.
Idiocracy.
Idiocracy. Why didn't I
My
see the
list?
live comments in StreamYard? I can't see the live comments in StreamYard.
Yeah.
I don't think we have any.
Oh,
Here's whatever.
Idiocracy.
Okay.
Roberto, have you read End of Eternity?
No, I need. Have you read the Foundation series?
Yeah. End of Eternity is basically humans have figured out it's like kind of in the future where they've figured out how eternity works, and that like we don't know how time actually works, and that you can travel through time and like all this stuff. So basically these are people who will travel through different eras in time and will make slight changes that will alter the future so that humanity can continue. So
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes
there's
sense.
like a
okay,
whole
we screwed
thing
it
that-
up, but we have to now go back, and now we know how we got here. So we're just
Right.
gonna derail. You know, it's funny. I read a fantasy series that I loved. It was my favorite fantasy series. It actually, in many ways, I think that like so. There's this fantasy series by Elizabeth Hayden called The Symphony of Ages. It starts with a book called Rhapsody. This book single-handedly, after having my heart ripped out of my chest by a harpy, it single-handedly renewed all of my faith in love and romance. And that wasn't even the point of the book, I don't think. And literally, one of the major plot points in the book is the world literally is burning in fire and ash, and a guy in an observatory hovering above the earth is making one alteration, one twist of fate between two people, two young people, two 14-year-old kids, and this is his plan to save the world by altering time, by altering the fate of two 14-year-olds and making sure that they meet at the exact right moment in time to fall in love with each other. And that was his plan. That was his plan, literally. He played the long game. We're talking, he played a long game over the course of, I think, like 2,000 years of subtle sleight of hand manipulation. And, you know, no spoilers, but obviously it worked. Because, like, that's the kind of, like, there's no point in writing a book, like, where you change the past unless it actually
It just
works.
fails.
Which book
Yeah.
is this?
It's so it's a book series called The Symphony of Ages, and it starts with a book called Rhapsody. And it was such a good book that like 60 or 70 pages in, and I borrowed it when I worked at the bookstore. After 60, 70 pages in, I went back the next morning, went to work, and bought the entire trilogy, because at the time it was a trilogy, and then they did a sequel trilogy, and so on and so forth. I went back and bought the entire trilogy, after 60 pages. Like that's how good it was. Like, and it's just interesting, the idea of like how the butterfly effect, one little
Right.
thing, one chance meeting can not only set off the course of your entire life, but the lives of like, you know, other people. It just gave me a healthy appreciation for the concept of consequences of like, you don't know.
You know, I think about that a lot, actually. And it kind of happened to me when I was in, where was I? I think I was in Dubai. and I was in a mall. It was a food court, and it was kind of late at night, and I was getting dinner there, and I looked over and I saw this kid, like probably maybe somewhere between the ages of 9 and 11. So this little boy, he did something like really kind of stupid where he like tilted his glass, but while he was trying to do something else, and just like spilled his water like completely all over the floor. And I was like watching all this from afar, and I saw this like two people like come in and help him, and like put like these are employees, right? And they came in and they like put towels or whatever. Then somebody else came and put like the sign that was like, oh, caution, wet floor, and like all this stuff had happened. And I was like, wow, just because like this one kid dumped a little bit of water on the ground, now like the guy who had to leave his post to dry up the floor is now not going to meet that other customer who maybe could have been the love of his life.
You disrupted
Oh
five
my
people.
God.
He disrupted the timeline of 5 people in an instant by spilling a glass of water.
Right. And that kind of thing, I don't know, like when I was there I was thinking about that, and I was like, wow, that's really weird. Like I had a really weird experience when I witnessed that. But it really kind of puts things in perspective, how like one thing that I like to say is like things don't happen for a reason, things happen to set into motion something else. And that really rings true when you take in media like that, Roberto, like what you were saying, where you
Yeah.
like you kind of think about it, but like when a story is like that and it really puts it into perspective or in a way that you can understand, it's just kind of mind blowing.
Yeah, like for me, in the story as it plays out over a series of books, you start to realize how many different things changed because these two crazy kids, met and fall in love and then get separated, literally separated, by the way, by 1,500 years. Because I won't spoil a lot of everything, but what I will say is this: is that so a young man gets yanked out of time and sent back 1,500 years in the past to meet his soulmate and fall in love with her in that moment. And they only have one day together. And he didn't know that. He was prepared, even though he knew the history. And he was like, you know what? I'm fine with the fact that I've been yanked out of my time. I'm never going to see my friends and family ever again. If I just get to be with this girl for the rest of my life, I'm okay dying a 1,500 years in the past. I am good with this deal. Only for him to end up back where he started, and knowing that it's not, by the way, a dream, and everyone tried to convince him he was crazy. And his grandmother, who's a seer, lies to him and tells him a half truth. Breaks his heart, like almost drives him insane. But he knows, because there's like physical, tangible evidence of like changes that happened to him as a result of all of this. And there's things that happened in that one day to where he knows, oh no, this was not like a dream. I have the evidence. I have the proof. For me, no one else will believe this, but he knows, right?
Right.
And then the other weird thing is that like the girl, she ends up meeting two very important people. Well, actually, three very important people that she might not have met otherwise, that fundamentally change her life for better and for worse, but mostly for better, despite some horrible things that happen. But you find out that despite how the various ways all the different characters get screwed over, there's one character that you would think was the one who wouldn't have gotten screwed over the most. But he absolutely, when you find out what the alternate timeline was and the life he could have had that was changed to change everything else to save the world, you realize this guy is the real hero of the story, even though he's not credited as initially as being the real hero of the story, because he's kind of he's a little bit of a dick. You end up finding out that it's like, you know what, everything he did is justified when you realize that what he could have had and what was taken from him to save the world. And the narrator well, sometimes he's kind of the narrator, the observer. We'll just call him the observer. The observer actually, when his plan plays out and he's accomplished his mission, he says, my one regret is what I had to do to Ahmed. It's like, he's like, but you know what? I can't help but think that if I had given you the choice, you would have been okay with this. It's like, he literally, I mean, this, you'll find out, because I'm sure you'll read the book review, but like, this man, the series, this man had to, oh my god, the amount this dude had to suffer, and to ultimately to save the world. And it wasn't just that he, like, when I say this man had to lose everything, I mean also over and over and over again over multiple lifetimes. It's like, it's so unreasonable.
Yeah.
But again, I think it gave me a healthy appreciation for the idea of consequences. Remember how I have this obsessive kick with, like, all there is consequences. All there is like your actions and everything like that. You can't be, you have the cards that you have to play, and whatever happens, that's, it's the way you chose to play the game. It's like, and I believe that. I think that part of that philosophy and part of what struck a chord with me was reading. So much of who I am, I think, was shaped by the books that I read.
Yeah, I feel that way too. Not just from like what my interests are, but also, the morality of things and how I approach things. Definitely, for me, it was definitely film and books. Those two combined definitely built up who I am as a person. Aside from, my everyday life and family and whatever. Yeah.
Audrey, what media was
your... I have to read more.
I was just going to ask you, like, what are your biggest influence? What have you read this year?
And also, what's your biggest influence?
Also, what were you doing last year on August 2nd at 5 o'clock in the morning?
Sleeping? Okay, there's two questions there. There's the books and then the biggest influences. I read a book not too long ago, like a couple months ago. The Pat Flynn book.
Which one?
Superfans. The one that you gave me. Awesome. That one was really good. Yeah. I like that one a lot.
When the quarantine is over, I'll lend you more books.
Ooh, yay. I was going to order some like a couple days ago, and then I forgot.
I'll give you my reading list.
Okay, the list.
Yeah, I have a required reading list. I read 50 to 100 books a year.
Oh my god. Dang. I listen to audiobooks sometimes.
That's how I read 50 to 100 books a year. I do audiobooks pretty regularly, and I like get through them pretty quickly, and then I actually still read physical books. I read every day.
Now, okay, I have so many questions right now. Okay. First of all, Audrey, I guess this isn't really a question, but get a library card. So
I can't go to the library.
Okay, no, you don't have to. Listen.
Actually, there is the online library, and you actually can.
Right. Can I explain something to you? The library is an excellent resource. So Atlanta's library the public library system is really, really good. So aside from like going to the library and getting your book and having it for 2 weeks or whatever, like there's a huge like collection of stuff that you can get online. So you can get stuff that you can like download and read like on a Kindle device. You can get audiobooks. This is all free, by the way. You can get audiobooks. They also have a bunch of other resources as well, which most public libraries have, at least in like the bigger metropolitan areas. So like, since you're going to be living in Los Angeles too, Los Angeles Library is like amazing. It's probably one of the best ones like that I've ever been a part of. The library, they have audiobooks, they have events, they have like online classes, and all the stuff, again, free. Like,
that's pretty cool. Someone commented she still has to go to the library to get the card.
Unless you can do it.
Listen, Andrew.
I'm kidding. I would go to get it.
No, well, I'm just saying, if you can't get a library card right now because of the circumstances, whatever. Point is, you need to go to library anyway. Like that's the first thing I do when I move to a city is get a library card because I don't know if I'm gonna need it, and it's free. It doesn't cost me anything. I just have to go fill out the thing and be like, oh yeah, I live here, and then that's it. You get a library card and you can use it for free, and they have apps on the phones now. So you can, download Kindle and audiobooks and all this stuff, and it's
cool.
great. It's a great resource. Secondly, get on Goodreads because then you can start making a list of all the different books that you want to read and the ones that you have read, so that you can feel accomplished. And
I need to get on Goodreads, but I will literally kill like a month just listing all the books.
Oh yeah, I mean that happened to me.
It might be 5 months, hell.
I mostly like keep it like I'm not really keeping tabs on it like as religiously. It's more like right now, like you just suggested these books, so I'll just go add it there. So then eventually, like when I'm like, oh, I don't have anything to read, I don't know, like I don't have that excuse because I have like a huge list of hundreds of books that I want to read or that people have suggested to me, so they're there. But Goodreads is great, and it's also connected. It's owned by Amazon, so it's like all this stuff is like it's all.
Oh, that makes it easier.
It's great, yeah. Anyway, so there's
that. Was smart of Amazon. Jesus Christ.
Next, Roberto, when you read audiobooks, when you listen to audiobooks, are you listening to them on normal time?
I listen to them at 1.25 times speed. 1.25. That's all.
Okay, me too. Depends though, because some narrators are so slow, I can actually go up to 1.5 and they sound normal.
Yes. Some of them I like them even if I even like them because the thing is I don't mind a slow cadence for storytelling.
Right.
I actually prefer a slow storytelling cadence. If I go into storyteller voice, my pacing is actually a lot slower than because I talk fast in conversation and like all the time. Or even when I'm doing lecture, I like talk fast. And it's hard for people. I feel so bad for the people trying to take notes. But my storyteller's cadence is very slow, dramatic, and very deliberate.
Right. It really depends on the narrator and the type of like how the audiobook is produced and all that stuff. Like all that goes into account. But for the most part, I do the books on 1.25. Because I find that it's just like it becomes like a normal speed. Like for me, I don't know.
Do you guys watch YouTube videos faster?
No.
It depends on the video. Depends on the video. For the most part, no, I don't. But if it's like
it's not designed in such a way. The way
exactly.
The way in which people create and edit their content and produce it is so specific that you aren't getting the desired experience if you try to cheat by moving through it quicker.
Now hold on, that really depends on the type of content though. I mean, like for instance, Audrey's video, I wouldn't do it at a faster speed. But like if it's a tutorial and I'm just trying to figure out something real quick or like I have a question, then I will do it faster. Especially if the person who's like if it's just like a screencast and they're taking forever to get to the point, then I'll play it faster. So that I can just like get all the information, but get to the task that I initially wanted when I first looked up that video. But that's very like that is a like 0.03% of like the times because most of the time I'll just watch it normal.
Yeah.
It makes me sad when people say they watch videos faster. I'm like,
I feel like watching videos.
Too, like,
I feel like it's more trouble to like speed through something and then have missed something and double back to have just went through it. And the thing is with a tutorial, the way I watch tutorials is I watch them 3 times in a row.
I think there's too many variables for me. Connor, who is sitting in live with us, says, hey, I'll watch, listen at 2 times fairly regularly. Sweat emoji.
To absorb the information, I have to watch it through 1 time completely uninterrupted. So then I watch something through 1 time interrupted. I watch something through for a tutorial. I watch something through all the way interrupted so that I can kind of start to, because if I do it the first time, it's possible that I absorb the information and I understand and comprehend and can just do the thing on my own now. But if not, I watch it through again as I'm doing it. And then once I've gone through the process, I'll watch it through again, having done the process myself, and now I can fully absorb the information the third time because I've lived it. So now, all right, I watched it through, made assumptions about my ability to do it and my, and have gotten it, okay. Then I had to actually do it and live it, and I watched it through to help me along the way. Now I've watched it, and now I can confirm my understanding, and now I can hold the information. So, like, that's actually, in my opinion, and this is just me, and that's the way I figured it out, is I found that that's the most complete way to watch a tutorial, because you probably actually own the knowledge if you do it that way. You can do the thing on your own indefinitely if you do it that way, because you really did absorb it.
I would say it depends on what it is that I'm learning or doing. Like when I first started working with Final Cut, the very first time that I did it, I found a course that was free, but it was a comprehensive course, like laid out. It was, I don't know how many hours. And it was free on like some guy's website, and it had videos and even downloadable content to like download this stuff and then cut the same things that he was explaining in his video course. And this was years and years and years and years and years ago. And I just blew through that whole course in a day. And I did the stuff like at the same time. Like I was just like, he was just like say stuff and I'd be like, oh, okay. And then I'd stop and then just do it myself and then just like skip forward.
Interesting.
Which is usually how I do stuff. Like when I'm learning something new, like if I kind of get the gist of it, then I'll just pause it and like do it myself. I'm very hands-on. Like I just kind of like jumping into the deep end, I guess.
I like that too, but I also like knowing what to expect because, like for me, I like to prep, and I think it might have something to do with kind of I think the way my parents used to teach me because they learned like my parents like you don't in the traditional education system you don't get a lot of one-on-one time, but my parents were really big on one-on-one time with me, especially having a kid with ADHD. Like they refused to put me on Ritalin. The teachers wanted to just like medicate and manage me, and like they were like hell no. And thank God for that. And my parents just made sure that if I needed to get something and understand it, that they showed me how it was done and made sure that I paid attention, and they broke it down for me step by step. Then they did it with me, and then they let me do it on my own, but would do it alongside me so that I feel like, confident. Then they let me do it completely on my own after that and let me do it enough times and say, no, I got it. I don't need help. I don't need you to watch me. I got it. Hey, in fact, look, I did it. And then they would acknowledge and praise me for doing it, and they would ask me questions, and then I would answer it, and so they knew that I did, in fact, understand. And that was how my parents taught me everything. And eventually, because I had how they taught me everything, when I wanted to learn something, I learned to teach myself the same way. I would teach myself the exact same way. I'd find a way to absorb the thing that I want to do. Then I would actually get hands-on and do it. And then I would observe the way it was done, compare it to how I'm doing it, and then try to close the gap between those two things. Or if I figured something out along the way that was a little bit better, I would make it my own. And then I would just repetition my way into really feeling like confident in doing this to where I could do it just off of memory. And that's how I learned everything and learned to teach myself and train myself to be a self-taught, hands-on learner.
What about you, Audrey? What are your learning methods? How do you learn things?
I don't know if I've really like broken this down before. I know in school I was like a visual learner for sure. I have to see things to understand them. So in
How
school
did
I
you
had, like,
learn
graphs and stuff or
How
pictures.
did you learn how to edit?
Trial and error. I was kind of forced to learn how to edit because I I had to use Premiere for the first time when I was in film school, but they didn't teach us how to use it. They kind of were just like, edit a video in it. And so no one in my group knew how to use it either, and it kind of just fell on me. So I literally just sat in a computer lab for hours and watched tutorials and just struggled. And eventually it gets easier. Because I think if you already know like other editing software, it's not like I was going from scratch. I don't know how I started learning. Like that must have been when I was like in middle school, just fooling around on iMovie.
Yeah.
That's how I started.
I learned how to video edit in Premiere Pro before Audrey was born.
Weird flex, but okay.
What?
So back in the day when there was back in my day when Adobe Premiere was Adobe Premiere 5, they
Adobe's older than I am.
Oh my god, by
Yes.
many years, you sweet summer child.
What?
Like, yeah. Like almost every Adobe software is
Oh
older
my
than
God.
you. Like
So
wow.
weird to think about.
But so back in my day, Photoshop, Premiere wasn't even called Premiere Pro yet. It was called Adobe Premiere, and it was Adobe Premiere 5.0 that I came in on. And it was my friend Daniel's father. So Mr. Frady was, a disabled veteran. And he, still did a lot of work from home, and he did all these things. And he was a wizard when it came to software. And he had a copy of Premiere Pro, and he was editing a video for work. And I was like, "What is that?" It's like, "Wait, you can like regular people can edit videos? They can make videos?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll show you." And and this is professional software. He's like, "There's all kinds of he's like, "Oh, there's little free stuff in the open source community. There's like Windows Movie Maker, but this is the real thing." And he was an amateur. He didn't have formal real training in this either. So he showed me a few basics, and he was like, "Hey, I'll make you a copy." And so he made me a copy and sent me home with it. And then I became obsessed, and I sat in Premiere Pro every single day. And I was finding videos anywhere I can find videos on the internet. Back then we had a lot of stuff like LimeWire and BearShare. BitTorrent wasn't a thing just yet. We had Kazaa.
Oh man, I forgot all about that.
Yeah, Kazaa. And so what I started with is I started finding old cartoon shows and movies, and I started making fake movie trailers, my own movie intros, my own intro. Like, oh, I bet you I can make a better intro for Spider-Man the Animated Series than the one they made back in the day. And I would do all kinds of these weird little things. And back then we didn't have YouTube. This was God. This was 22 years ago. So this is 22 years ago. 22 years ago. And yeah, 1998. Yeah, this is 1998. And so I'm doing all this stuff, and YouTube wouldn't come around for many, many years. YouTube didn't come until 2005. So, I had spent hundreds of hours doing this and learning this. Even back then, we had all kinds of weird little software. We had things like DivX, we had FFmpeg, we had Virtual Dub. Some files, we had these huge, ridiculous AVI files, and I would have to trim them down with Virtual Dub and make them small enough to put into Premiere. And back then, you think Premiere was buggy or that programs crashed. Now, back in my day, and you think it was hard to find footage and download it. Now we had 56K modems back then. Are you freaking kidding? And God forbid someone calls the house. So, no,
yes, I remember the noise.
DSL when
That's what it sounded like whenever you picked up the phone and somebody was online in the other room.
When the blessed gods of technology bestowed upon us the DSL, it was good.
Jenny, who's in the chat right now, joining us live, says that she went to go check, and Premiere came out in 1991.
Mm-hmm. I used to put videos on the internet before there was a YouTube, and we used to have to find weird ways to play back the videos, and we had to download actual on-computer video players to be able to watch things and stream them over the internet, and we had this ridiculous buffer. You think like, oh, YouTube's slow, it's lagging. Oh God, you guys have no idea. You're spoiled as hell. Like we had back then. We had Windows Media Player. We had WMV files. We had ASF files. Remember ASF files?
Real Player.
And we had Real Player. Yeah, we had Real Player. And we were using like, when VLC came out, that was like amazing. We were like, yeah, like this is like legit. Like, we had nothing back then, but we made really dope, cool stuff back then with very little. And it took time. It took like, you think people spend hours and hours. You think people spend a lot of time on YouTube videos today? Back then, my God, just to make a 3-minute video back then, which was like a big deal, was like 50, 60 hours of a labor of love just to make a 3-minute video.
Sukotsu
and
says,
it wasn't even good.
I wonder how long it took to edit the Tiger King documentary.
I just looked that up because I've seen so many people talking about it. And
it's the title of our...
And I didn't know what it was.
I haven't even watched it yet.
Still don't... Wait, what? How have you managed
I've seen everyone on Twitter talking about it, but I just didn't look it up.
I saw an article where like somebody from the movie is like missing.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much is what they kind of just set it up that way. Because someone is missing or went missing and they never found out like if he got killed or what happened, but Netflix, like the whole documentary is kind of set up to frame this lady as like, ooh, did she like kill her husband to get all his millions, or like but anyway, there's a whole thing with that. But I'm surprised that Audrey.
Why is everyone freaking out about it? Like,
because it's insane. Because the way that it is laid out makes
everyone loves true crime now. So that's for one thing.
But it's not even about true crime, Roberto. The thing is that this is like you watch this and it feels like it's fake. Like it feels like these people cannot possibly be real. Like none of these scenarios can be real.
Absurd. It's too absurd.
Yeah, but they're so real. Like they're so out there that.
Give me an example.
Well, one of the people, his name is Joe Exotic, and
that's just already a red flag.
And it's just like, it's very like, you have to see it. He makes music videos, which are interesting. Okay. But he basically, it follows like these different people who own big cats, so tigers, lions,
okay,
leopards,
like
bobcats,
type of, yeah,
right, like these kinds of people, and it follows all of them and kind of like the rivalries between them.
Oh God! So
but that's like
basically it's a bunch of rich people flexing on each other.
It's thrown into like the drama of it, but
okay, it's rich people flexing on people with rich people hobbies.
Not really, because none of them are really. I mean, they are, but they're. I mean, it's like, just to put it very plainly, and I don't want to like offend
it's like
anybody.
Dog show owners? Is it like dog show owners?
No, it's very trash. Like, it's very, like, these people should not own big cats. And it's not for, like, the flaunting of, like, ooh, I own, like, a Bengal cat. No, like, these people don't have exotic pets. They literally have, like, a zoo. Like, they just have, like, we're talking, like, 50, 60 tigers, like, Bengal tigers.
I'm not sure that should be allowed.
Right. And that's, like, the whole thing behind the documentary. And there's this one woman
I'm not sure I'm okay with that.
She's apparently, like, trying to fight against this. She's like, this shouldn't be legal. I can't believe, like, you know, that's even, like, allowed. Like, these animals should be in captivity. But then, like, on the opposite side of the spectrum, she herself has rescued, like, these cats. And I say rescued in quotation marks because she's gotten these cats from other owners or from people, like from captivity, like from fur farms. And so she's like, you know, quote unquote, saved these cats, but she herself has them in captivity.
Give them to a preserve. Give them to a preserve.
Right. But that's the thing. She claims that she is a preserve, which I'm sure that she is. But then that brings up the question of like, is this a preserve?
Yeah.
Preserving
or is she exploiting them? Like there's this whole thing that's with it, right? But like the whole show is just, it like centers around these characters that are just so eccentric and absurd that they can't possibly be real, so it feels like it's fake. So that's the entertainment value off of watching it. And then of course they play up and embellish like all this drama of like, oh well, like did she kill her husband? Like there's like all this thing, like everyone's like.
So I'm interested in it now, but I kind of want to pivot this. What's our stance individually on the idea of? So this comes up to a point that I've never brought up before about myself, that I don't believe that property rights should be applied to animals. I believe that animals, when it comes to the way that human beings have a relationship with them as like quote unquote pet owners, that it should be considered almost the kind of custodial relationship that someone has when they adopt a child. I think that it should be treated, and that the laws should be amended in the same way, in such a way where animals should not be treated as or considered property, but should be considered as living things with humans having custodialship over them, not ownership over them.
Christopher in the chat says, I haven't seen it, but I heard someone describe it as the hot trash version of Game of Thrones.
I haven't seen that one either, but it still sounds accurate.
It's the Game of Tigers, apparently. But yeah, I mean, it's just so well done, Roberto. Like, it's very ridiculous, and you think, oh yeah, whatever. Like, I've seen this story 1,000 times, like, but it's just so well done, and like the way that it's cut, it's just so precisely cut and well directed that it's no wonder, like, from the first episode, you're just like, wow, this is a train wreck, and I am here to take pictures of it. Like,
wow, that sounds very Shane Dawson-esque.
Yeah, I mean, it really is very much like living for the drama of it. And at the same time, there is like this you know, moral issue of, well, am I kind of contributing to like the slander of this like woman? Because like essentially everybody like on, like you go to the Big Cat Rescue Twitter account now, and like their top tweet, like pinned to the top, is like, hey, like, you know, we trusted Netflix or whatever, and like, you know, what all of this has led, and like all that stuff, the negativity and everything, like it's not something we expected.
Netflix market it in a way that could be considered irresponsible?
I feel like that's something.
Consider the choice of words I use. I used the word irresponsible, not slanderous, libelous. I used the word irresponsible.
Right.
I mean, debatably, it might be good for the, you know.
I mean, I'm following her now. I'm following Big Cat Rescue.
I hear the argument for healthy debate so much as a justification for like garbage things. But the thing is, we talk about the phrase healthy debate. Do we actually believe, and I hate to go here and everything like that, do we believe that modern people, and I'll just say it, do we believe like that most like, you know, people in this country are at this point are capable of quote unquote healthy debate? Would they know what healthy debate looks like? Do they have the intellectual acumen for quote unquote healthy debate?
Perhaps.
The temperament for healthy debate, the maturity for healthy debate. And that sounds really hypercritical until you realize that we all went to a high school in America at some point. So again, criticizing the majority of people, let's really think about the majority of people that we experienced in high school, or the majority of people that we might have experienced on the job, and tell me that that judgment is harsh then, or that judgment is condescending or arrogant then. Because the reality is you probably don't have a very flattering opinion of the majority of people you went to school with, if you're going to be honest.
Sakotsu's take on this is, I think people are obsessed with the Tiger King because of the character situation and insanity of it all. It doesn't help either that Joe Exotic is strangely charismatic and entertaining, and that's it, Roberto. That's the thing. That's why people are watching, is because
Oh, so you mean it makes my point. The low-hanging fruit. The low-hanging fruit, regardless of
Yup.
what, it's like, okay, this is mindless. This is like, okay, so this is mindless. It's entertaining. Oh, this person is charismatic and funny and maybe attractive or whatever and everything like that. And we're going to throw out all common sense. We're going to throw out all rational thought. We're going to throw out all, like, discernment because lulz.
Yeah. Well, also because when you watch it, you'll notice that they frame it in such a way that Joe Exotic seems like the most normal out of all of the clowns. I mean, aside from Mario, which is one of the people.
Yeah, are
who's
they characters or people?
No, people. These are real people.
But
Okay.
see, but the thing is, they're so over the top and so absurd that you've been able to. That's a Freudian slip of, like, you think of them as characters because of how ridiculous they are and over the top and how absurd this is.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much. The one guy, Mario, I think was his name. He was pretty much like the most normal one. He's just some rich guy, and he's like very calm and just very sophisticated. He's like the people you were describing before, like just the rich guy who happens to have like a few cats. But he's like the series does not go circle around him. The main people that they focus on is Joe Exotic, this guy named Doc, who may or may not be a cult leader, and then Carol Baskin, who may or may not have killed her husband, which, according to Jenny, who was watching this chat, says no way, she definitely fed her husband to the tigers.
Wait, is that actually something that they're like investigating?
Yeah, I mean, it came up in the thing.
my God.
Like people thought that maybe she might have put her husband through the meat grinder and
my God.
fed him to the tigers.
That's one way to get rid of the body.
Right?
Oh my God.
I mean, there's almost no way to forensically.
Now Roberto's thinking about things.
I'm thinking of, like, forensically, how would you?
You don't own
And it's
any
too
tigers.
far gone. And it's too far gone.
No, I don't think we need to go there.
Yeah, let's not put any incriminating.
No, I'm thinking forensically. How would you prove that? How would, like? That's fascinating.
Yeah. Isn't that's pretty much the premise of Sweeney Todd. Have you?
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with Sweetie. Like, yeah, no, I've watched almost everything that Tim Burton's ever directed. So.
Oh, but you should watch the original Broadway musical.
See, I had to watch Sweeney Todd in spite of it being a musical.
I see. You're not a musical fan.
Not for the majority of them. There's a few.
But Sweeney Todd is probably the best musical. I mean, it's my favorite musical.
I'll concede that, like, the spectacle of that and the period of time that's in merits a musical in a way that I can accept, and that's why I was able to. I have no complaints about watching it as a musical versus just a drama. Although I would have liked a dark, grim drama without the musical in that as well, maybe a little bit more, honestly. But the musical took nothing away from it for me. So.
Right. Yeah. Audrey, do you know anything about Sweeney Todd?
I've heard of it. I think I probably watched it like a long time ago. Maybe.
You don't just probably.
I forget these things, especially if I watched it when I was younger. I might recognize it. I have to like look at some.
Okay, Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street, is a barber who is killing his customers and turning them into meat pies.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, I need to see pictures. Yes, I've seen this. Or I think I saw a play like at my school.
Muppets, meat pies. Muppets, meat pies.
Yes, I saw a play at my school. That's where it was from.
Andrew, no, it is not a filter. Andrew is asking if the hat I am currently wearing is a filter. It is not a filter. This is the real deal.
You just have like a
You know what?
stash.
You know what I've always wanted to do and everything. I've always wanted to, and this would actually be a great. See, this is why I need to make more money. I need to make more money so I can do some cool stuff. Because, like, you know what? I'd
Like
love
buy a
to-
bunch of big cats.
Yeah.
I want to write. I want to write a treatment for a modern retelling of the Count of Monte Cristo as a direct to YouTube series.
I cannot comment since I don't know what that is.
Okay.
The Count of Monte Cristo? You know what I need to do? I need to here's what I
Oh my
need to
God.
do. I need to make a YouTube channel that doesn't use my face, where I literally craft a 5-minute summary of individual books that are like the greatest books in literary history. And it needs to just be 100 episodes, and that's it. You get 100 books in 5 minutes each, and that's the gist of it. Like,
Does this not exist already?
probably not.
Oh.
And the thing is, I think I could probably do it better. It might require some script, but it's like, or if it's not 5 minutes, it's like as fast as possible. Like maybe it would be good reads as fast as possible, and it would be, and then the gimmick would be people in the comments suggest what book to do next, and that would be the gimmick. But the thing is, here's my thing: I want to do all these different ideas, but the reality is, I'm only one man, and I'm already running multiple businesses. It's a problem. So the answer would be to literally just fund somebody else doing it, invest in somebody else and everything like that, and then recoup my investment with Wet My Beak equity, basically Shark Tank, and just like that's what I've always wanted to do, is just make an absurd amount of money and then do a bunch of Shark Tank creativity stuff. Because Andrew brought up Spark Notes. It's not a curated Spark Notes because it's also entertaining, and it's a dramatization of the events, with somebody doing the voices and doing like stuff, and like maybe it's animated, or maybe even if it's not animated, it's using good visuals that were commissioned by artists, even if it's stills and stuff like that. It could be very well done. I would prefer it to be animated. So like, yeah, I mean, I think I don't really believe it exists. The closest thing to a version of it that is wildly entertaining is Thug Notes.
I was just gonna ask you
Yes,
if
Wisecrack.
you've seen that.
Thug Notes on Wisecrack. So I think it's brilliant. But basically, when I grew up, there was this show called Wishbone.
Wishbone.
Boom. What's the story? Wishbone. Audrey, you did not watch Wishbone. Audrey, you sweet summer child. You've been deprived of PBS Kids. My lord.
No, I watched Wishbone. Hold on. Wait.
Why are you're Googling it right now? I hear keyboard.
I have to see a visual reference.
Oh my goodness! I'll tell you. A
No, I don't.
reference.
I don't recognize.
Oh
this at all.
no. Okay, it's a little dog who.
What kind of dog was he again? I'm trying to remember. He was.
Isn't it like a terrier?
I think he was
Yeah, it's
either
some
a
type of
terrier. Yeah, I think it was a terrier. He wasn't a Dachshund. He was like. He was some
Audrey's already Googling, so.
Yeah,
what-
I'm looking at a
What's
picture
the
of it right
story?
now.
Wishbone.
Okay, well, look up what kind of dog it was.
Wishbone the dog detective.
That was just one bit in the thing. He wasn't always doing the detective bit. He was more often doing storytelling. One of my favorites being the one where
Right.
where they overlooked a lot in this one, where they did the Odyssey. That was a good one, but they overlooked a lot of stuff. They had to make
He's
it kid friendly.
He's a Jack Russell Terrier.
There you go. Yeah. I should have known that because Rio's a Jack Russell. They look very different, but yeah, Rio's a Jack Russell.
Someone said Audrey's letting us young folks down. Just don't use me as a reference because I don't know any of them.
Yeah, no, my opening bits will always be at your expense when it comes to pop culture.
Oh my god.
But no, my obsession is basically that I basically want to recreate PBS and Nickelodeon.
Isn't that what everybody
It's pretty
wants?
ambitious.
Yeah, basically, I've been like, I basically want to create the next Viacom. Like, I just need an absurd amount of money and about 20 years, and I can do it. Like, Bezos got $300,000 and he had 20 years, and it's understandable to me. He was at a level of genius to where he could become the richest man in the world with that seed money and that timeline. I require probably more money and equal or more time to accomplish my ambitions that don't necessarily need me to be the richest man in the world, but be up there. But I need more money and more time than Bezos because I'm not as smart as him.
Roberto's plans for taking over the world.
I've not been shy about my plans for world domination at all.
No, I think
That's the way to go
pretty
about
clear.
it.
I've been very upfront and transparent about
No
the
lies,
end game
so no
here
one's
from the very
surprised.
beginning.
They can come back to this podcast and realize that you were transparent
It was my
about
plan
it from
all
the beginning.
along. It was all part of the no. I've been literally telling everyone exactly what I'm going to do. It's not been a secret.
Romina, what is up? Like, she just brings out the
I'm
most
very
random
curious about
stuff.
Romina's toy collection.
Yeah, you just have like a collection of toys like next to your desk?
Yeah, I think actually finally my storage pod arrived, and so after I decontaminate everything, I actually might be able to recoup some of my my childhood toys that whatever is still not damaged or whatever.
Nice.
From your storage pod?
Yeah.
Mm.
Because I have like old school, like original G.I. Joes that are 30 years old. Like I have original Transformers, original. Maybe I might still have some original Voltron Lions. I have some like old like original first run Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like I have individual action figures, Romina, that are worth $80 a piece right now on eBay. And I have like dozens of these. Like I have like maybe hundreds. Like yeah.
People listening to the podcast don't know where that sound's coming from.
But we'll discuss that on the next one. I have a fun box, and we'll talk about that on the next episode if you guys want.
Make sure you guys tune in for that.
Yeah, make sure you tune in live.
Very interesting.
A show and tell. I'll bring out my little fun box. It's very small.
Audrey, you still owe us a viewing of at least the first episode of The Wonder Years.
Yep.
I know. I tried to log into HBO, and then I found out that I actually have used my free trial.
You mean of Hulu?
Hulu.
Yes. Sorry, of Hulu.
Romina, can you just lend Audrey your Hulu?
But I can ask. I'm gonna ask like my brother or my parents or something to use their like free trial if they haven't used it.
All right. You do that then. So you'll watch 3 episodes before next Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
At least one. But like, if she watches one, she'll watch 3. Because if you watch
I already watched the first one.
There's no way to not keep watching after you watch the first episode of The Wonder Years, to be honest.
See, I followed through. I watched the first episode.
Romina kept
Well, you didn't have to watch them. You already watched them.
So who cares? I need a refresher. I gotta watch it so that we can talk about it.
Okay,
Plus, it was to hold you accountable for it. The whole point was I'll watch it if you will.
Okay.
You didn't hold up your end
See,
of
the thing
agreement.
is, if it wasn't for this damn quarantine, we could have all just come over to my house and we could have just watched it on the big screen and we could have just like made popcorn and we could have just done a thing.
Look at this.
Well.
But no, like, you know, all of our freaking systems had to fail, and like, you know, and like we couldn't flatten the curve. Like,
It's based off of cards, though, not emails.
Oh, your credit card?
Yeah.
I see. All right, guys. I think we'll probably start wrapping this up soon.
Oh my god.
If you guys have any last words, we do have.
Someone can cheat. I wonder if someone can cheat all those free trials by just making like Visa gift cards.
Visa
prepaid credit or debit cards. I wonder if people can literally just cheat free trials that way.
You can.
Huh. That's good to know.
I was actually reading an article today about Netflix, because you know you can get your subscription based on like gift cards at like wholesale, so like Costco and stuff like that. You can go get it, and so you'll basically have a cheaper subscription because you'll be getting it at a discounted price. So you could just keep using the gift cards and just pay for the gift card and then put that into the Netflix account instead of paying for the Netflix account using your credit card.
Interesting.
It'll be a small amount, but whatever. I mean, it's kind of like a hack.
No,
I feel like the time it takes is a little bit more than the dollar.
Yeah, no,
I
think the time it takes. I think the time it takes like is a net negative.
Plus, you have to like actually be at one of those stores or like already.
Yeah, no.
Or else
See, this is where it costs too much to be cheap, which I think we said earlier. It costs too much to be cheap.
Yes, absolutely.
Being cheap is expensive.
That is a whole other discussion.
We should keep that for the next one.
Okay.
No, the next one is going to be a fun box, guys.
Oh, okay, well, we'll
1 hour.
Leave it in. We'll leave it in. I mean, think about it. They had to wait like 30 minutes for us to even talk about Tiger King. They had to wait 35 minutes for us to even talk about Tiger King.
That's better than our previous episodes where we've mentioned something and just never brought it up in the entire episode.
Don't tell them or they won't listen.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell them which one it is. You'll have to listen to the episodes to find out which one.
Don't tell them about our clickbait. Like, no, if anybody like, here's a fun thought. Like, I mean, it'll be hard. Like, the accountability on this will be rough on me because I've tried it before. But maybe we also start a book club.
Ooh.
And it's all fiction. We read all fiction. Like, yeah. Just start a book club.
Well, I just read Congo and End of Eternity.
Mm-hmm. I am into the 5th book of the, I think it's called the Lightbringer saga. Yeah, I think it's called the Lightbringer saga. See, it's hard. I know the names of the books. It's like but when something's a saga or a compilation, and the saga thing is not the name of one of the books, that makes it rough. Like,
right.
It's like, I think it's the Lightbringer series by Brandon Sanderson, who also wrote. Or no, is it Brandon Sanderson or is it Brent Weeks? It's either Brandon Sanderson or Brent Weeks. No, it's Brent Weeks because it's Brent Weeks because he wrote the Night Angel trilogy. Bryan Sanderson finished Wheel of Time for Robert Jordan, and then he wrote The Way of Kings. So and he wrote the Mistborn series, which I also like. See, I read too much. Like, well, then maybe there's no such thing as reading too much. Anyway, the point is.
Oh, sorry.
Go. No, finish your thought.
I was gonna say, do you guys do stuff while you listen to audiobooks, or do you just kind of?
I do stuff.
Sit there and listen.
I listen to audiobooks all day while I do everything else.
Oh, okay.
And podcasts. I listen to audiobooks and podcasts all day.
Yeah.
I squeeze in music. I squeeze in music when I'm working out or when I'm just like free-flowing ideas. When I'm doing my free writing exercises, which is how I come up with ideas for all my projects and for whatever, because I have like these break periods in my structure, that's when I listen to music. Other than that, music time is time that I'm not just listening to books or podcasts, and I'm like, nah, I'd rather listen to books or podcasts than music.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same as far as listening to it while I'm doing stuff. I do spend a lot of time where I'm editing or where I want to pay attention to what I'm doing, like if I'm doing like finance stuff or something where I really want to just make sure that I don't mess something up. Then I won't listen to stuff, but I'll listen to audiobooks while I'm cooking, while I'm cleaning, while I'm, sometimes while I'm working out, before I go to sleep. I'll often listen to something, like if I'm having a hard time going to sleep, I'll just listen to,
that's what I do.
I've got a couple books that I listen to. So I don't listen to nonfiction stuff, when I'm going to go to sleep.
Yep.
'Cause it gets the gears rolling and I can't handle that. So I actually have a really great audiobook of Alice in Wonderland. And then I also have Planet of the Apes. And so I will just play those because I'm already familiar with the story, but it's also engaging enough where I'll kind of, start to kind of dream, I guess, and then just fall asleep to it.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
I have I have two interesting YouTube series that are modern retellings of books, historical books that Audrey would like, and it was it was an initiative. The first one was an initiative by Hank Green. Hank Green is kind of my like YouTube mogul kind of like role model in a way. And I had some interesting conversations with him. I also met him at one of these VidCons. I think it was like 2 years ago or a year ago. Great guy, like really friendly. But like he's the YouTube equivalent possibly to a Jeff Bezos, actually, as far as like people who built their empire off of their knowledge of like coming from the YouTube community. Like Hank Green might be the Jeff Bezos of YouTube, interestingly enough. if Hank Green if Hank Green is the Jeff Bezos of YouTube, maybe Mr. Beast is the Elon Musk of YouTube.
No.
Like, I don't know.
That's an interesting comparison.
It might be.
Yeah.
It might be.
I mean, I don't know if I would go as far as to say that, but
I don't know. I don't
Maybe
think
not
that's entirely
yet.
I don't think it's the right
Maybe.
analogy. I don't think it's the right analogy, but I'm talking about scale of accomplishment wise.
I do understand that. Yeah.
Scale of accomplishment wise, it's arguably, well, actually Mr. Beast would actually theoretically be Mark Zuckerberg, but like I don't want to compare him to that, but I'm talking about young wonder kid speed of execution of getting to a certain height so quickly.
Right.
You know. So in that equation, then maybe Hank might be more of the analog to Elon, if I'm honest, because in temperament he's more Elon. But in terms of scale of accomplishment for the YouTube ecosystem, and also the way in that which that ecosystem works, his thing may look more like a Bezos-like move, and his understanding of logistics is more Bezos. He doesn't break things the way Elon does to, like, you know what I'm saying? Like Hank's level of thoughtfulness and being methodical, and is but Hank thinks about employees in the way that Bezos thinks about, like, is fanatical customer service. Mm-hmm. Hank is fanatical about taking care of his people.
Right.
Like, he's fanatical to a fault about taking care of the people that he's responsible for. It's his most admirable quality, in my opinion, outside of his intellect, is his thoughtfulness. And I know he was also influenced by Asimov and the Foundation series, because he named his charitable foundation, him and his brother John named their foundation the Foundation to End World Suck. That sounds so much like like maybe millennial Gen X spin off of Asimov's Foundation series, because it was the Foundation to End Human Suffering. Well,
Right.
like, he just made it cute by, the Foundation to End World Suck. Like, that
Right.
made it very millennial, right? So the as the old folks would say, right? So the
Roboomers.
yeah, as the boomers would say. So I feel like they're these two really interesting titans that took completely different paths and are of different generations, that are both very altruistic, very philanthropic. But I remember what I wanted Audrey to look at. So one of the first things is the Lizzie Bennett Diaries. The Lizzie Bennett Diaries is a web series that was thought of to some extent and funded, and the brainchild of Hank Green, but it was executed by all these other people, but he like helped make this happen. And it's a 100 episode web series that is essentially a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, but adapted to the era of vlogging. And so the Lizzie Bennett Diaries is the main protagonist of Pride and Prejudice, Lizzie Bennett, who is a independent journalist and vlogger and all these things, and so it's a modern era retelling of the plot of Pride and Prejudice, and you'll love it. It's very thoughtful. It's very well done. You'll love it. It's very creative. It'll make you have a much better appreciation for books and television and script writing and scripted. It's something that made me really feel like, people talk about the authenticity of vlogging and this and that, the next and the third. But the thing is, there's like scripted web series are making a comeback in YouTube, and web series in general are making a comeback in YouTube. And the thing is, scripted comedy is doing very well in YouTube. And I think people don't have an appreciation for the thoughtfulness of writing that goes into creating a world, creating characters, and then the ability and execution, the talent required for an actor or actress, especially a young actor or actress, to bring that character to life and to do it justice, and for us to be absorbed into it and to feel for them and for it to be believable. And that's something that people can do without Hollywood on their own. Like it's something that really made me appreciate that. And then there's another one that is more played for laughs and not as grounded in reality, because the Lizzie Bennet Diaries is very much grounded in reality. But then there's another web series by a different group of people who, some of them worked on the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, called The New Adventures of Peter and Wendy, which is based on Peter Pan. But it's grounded somewhat in our real world to a point, but there's little things that aren't fully grounded in reality, like Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell is legit like an actual like fairy in this and is a plot device, but not you'll watch it and if you watch it you'll see. But so like I just really appreciate good writing. I appreciate bringing characters to life and doing them justice and making them your own. And I think that when we look at what gets views on YouTube, it's not the best well-crafted stories. It's not the best artistic visual storytelling. It's not the delivery of obvious technical ability and acumen and skill that's been developed over a long period of time. It's not craftsmanship. It's not attention to detail. And that makes me sad.
Yeah.
And I think with that, we should wrap this up since we're already 20 minutes since I said that.
I mean, this happens every time.
But it was an interesting topic.
Someone make me feel better. I just depressed myself.
Well, we would have ended this podcast on a high note if it wasn't for everything that just happened. But that's a lesson to you. When Romina says, let's wrap this thing up, we're wrapping it up.
All wrapped up.
That is an interesting topic, and I would want to delve deeper into it in another episode. I think we should start a spreadsheet so we can start writing things down and actually remember our ideas.
I like spreadsheets.
I like spreadsheets too. We're going to get Audrey on the spreadsheet train someday.
We're going to get you on that life, kiddo.
All right. So, Roberto, do you want to take us out?
Yes. I need a better format for the fake outro too, so I can remember all the things though.
Remember to remind them to give us a good rating.
Exactly.
And
See, that's the things that I need to remember.
I just reminded you.
All right. Thank you for listening to the No Assembly Required podcast, available where all podcasts can be listened to, including the Apple Store, whatever we're calling it. Is it iTunes? Is it Apple Podcast? Who knows? Their branding is whatever they decide it is this week. You could also listen to it on Google Play, Stitcher Radio, and everywhere else that podcasts are available. We think. Please give us a good rating and review for doing a show that is wildly entertaining and talks about nothing. This is the No Assembly Required podcast, brought to you by Red Romina, the girl who can't seem to hold Roberto accountable. Roberto? Roboomer. We're doing this. And Audrey Ember, the girl who has no point of reference for anything relevant in the last 50 years of pop culture, except for YouTube. Wow. And yes, I did make that joke at your expense. And of course, your favorite boomer, Roberto Blake. This has been the No Assembly Required podcast. No viewers or listeners were harmed in the recording of this episode.